Good evening. We'll call the August 12th, 2025 meeting of the Currituck County Planning Board to order this evening. Our first order of business is Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This time we'll ask for any disqualifications by any member. Hearing none, we will announce that there is a quorum met for tonight's meeting, and we'll now entertain a motion for approval of the agenda for this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda this evening.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, and next we'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes for the July 8th, 2025 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 8th, 2025.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, at this time we have no old business, so we will move forward to new business. First item on the agenda is PB 25-15, Currituck County, a request to amend the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 2, Administration, and Chapter 10, Definitions and Measurement, to remove the special use permit requirement for Type 1 preliminary plats, that's subdivisions creating 20 or fewer lots, when one or more public facilities are at 85% or more of maximum capacity, and clarify definitions related to preliminary plats. This time we'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a text amendment that was submitted by the Board of Commissioners, and I believe it was directed in their June work session to proceed with this text amendment to remove the requirement for a special use permit for the Type 1 preliminary plats, which are plats of 20 or fewer lots. Currently, the ordinance requires concurrent special use permit approval for those types of plats when the adequate public school facilities are within 85% or more of capacity. And I will say that currently, obviously the Tells Creek Elementary School is under construction, and once that's open, the high school is right around 86%, so that would be the school that's bumping Type 1 preliminary plats into needing that special use permit for now. So the board did want to remove that provision. And these first slides are just the strike-throughs of the ordinance that accomplish that directive. So we're striking through under the special use permit section of 2.4.6, the Type 1 preliminary plats. We're striking that through. Then in section 2.4.8, which is major subdivision review, we're striking through that Type 1s do not require approval of a special use permit unless one or more facilities is within 85%, which is also what was directed by the board. And again, in the application submittal and acceptance part of Chapter 2, Section 2.4.8, under the Type 1 preliminary plat procedure, striking through that same language to accomplish the directive of the board. And you may have noticed in your agenda packet, there's some staff, in the memo, we've included a little bit of background about the historical practice for determining when something is a Type 1 or a Type 2 preliminary plat. And we found that the ordinance could use additional language to buffer that, that historical practice. So the first thing staff would like to present for the board's consideration is adding a definition of parent parcel. There's not one in the ordinance currently, but it is referenced, and the date of April 2nd, 1989 is referenced in the ordinance, so this would just provide a definition for parent parcel, that is the parcel or tract of land as it existed on April 2nd, 1989. Then when we look at determining what is a Type 1 or 2 preliminary plat, there's a few options here in your ordinance, and I'll try to go over those here. One is what we've been doing, which is 20 or fewer lots from the parent parcel, and we're going to include any minor lots that have been created within 5 years of the application. That ordinance with respect to the minor lots is in the ordinance currently. Tying it to the parent parcel specifically is kind of derivative in the ordinance, but it would be nice if it just plain as day said that it was tied to the parent parcel for everyone involved. And so that's one option, which is your option in the text of option 1 of staff, and it's item 4 of the text amendment. Option 2, and we talked to staff about some ways that might accomplish, different ways that we could go about determining whether something is a preliminary plat type 1. And that's 20 or fewer lots from the parent parcel, including minor lots within 5 years and major subdivision lots within 10 years. So for example, let's say you had a major subdivision on a parcel that came from a parent parcel of like 15 lots or something like that as a major. That was a major, a type 1. So in this scenario, if it had been 10 years since that application, the next part of a subdivision or subdivision from the parent parcel would reset after the 10 years. So you could come in with another up to 20 lots and still be a type 1. Does that make sense?
That's option 1.
That's option 2.
Option 2, okay.
Option 1 is just counting lots from the parent parcel. So the parent parcel is the 89 date, any lots, and then we're going to include any minor lots that were created within 5 years of the major subdivision application. And that's how we would determine what is a preliminary plat type 1 or 2. Then option 2 is including a time frame of major subdivision. So let's say you had a major subdivision that was fewer than 20 lots that was done with a type 1, or more than 20 lots that was done with a type 2, but then you came in and there was maybe a tract that wasn't developed and that was less than 20 lots. Then if it had been 10 years, then that would be a type 1 as opposed to a type 2. And just keeping in mind that it's really about the review process, what needs a special use permit for the board or not. And so these are things that aren't explicit in the ordinance that we just want to make sure we're all on the same page moving forward, especially if we're going to say that type 1s don't need a special use permit, regardless of the adequate public school facilities. And feel free to ask any questions. It's not super simple what we're talking about here. It's complicated. So any questions, feel free to ask. And then our option 3, which we don't have any text proposed for that, would be that you would just, it would just be 20 or fewer lots as a major subdivision, regardless of the parent parcel. So if you came in with a subdivision on a piece of property, whether it was part of the parent parcel or not, if it's a major subdivision, okay, how many lots are you creating? Less than 20 or more than 20? So that would be another option to consider. Staff, I believe that option 2 is a good option in that you're not incentivized to take advantage of avoiding some sort of special use permit proceeding, provided that there had been 10 years. But what I'd like to do is show you just on the GIS, if I could, what this could look like with some just existing parcels. So for example, you may be familiar with this piece of property that was subject to a subdivision approval. This subdivision, it included a lot here. So these 2 lots out front were owned by the same developer, and we're having GIS slowness issues now. Sorry. This happened before. I tried to pull it up so we could avoid that, but it's happened. So the 2 lots out front are minor lots. So the 20 lots plus 2 would be a type 2 preliminary plat. So that would still need a special use permit because the minor lots are created within 5 years and they count. Now, it was a type 2 that went before the board because of that, and they had a special use permit. So that's an example. Let me see. Let me just look at some vacant parcels here. Well, maybe.
Jenny, how are these options generated? these different options?
How are they what?
How are they created, the different options?
What do you mean?
Or is the county coming up with the different options? Where did they come
Sure,
from?
it's our ordinance.
Okay,
So, and we've counted, so for determining whether something's a minor or a major subdivision,
Right.
we count the splits from the parent parcel, right?
okay.
So, but then there's just a little bit of, it seems like, you could have a 500 acre parent parcel that this heir got 100 acres of, and that heir got 100 acres of, and that heir got 300, if it was 500. And that would all be tied together under these rules. So let's say the first subdivision came in and did 20 lots. Well, the next subdivision in, that's a type 2, right? Whereas that could just be 20 lots or 15 lots, or it could be more and really be a type 2. That's kind of what we were getting at, is just making sure we all understand that and that we have the right direction for how the board wants to proceed with requiring certain permits for that.
So option 2 would basically inhibit a sweep up of smaller parcels. If you cannot get a 400 acre parcel to develop on, but you could get, 100, they could not go in and just say, go, 20, 20, 20, 20 all at the same time. Is that what I'm understanding?
Right, that's what, well, it's basically going to be, once you hit 20 or more, it's a major
Yes.
type 2, which means special use permit.
Okay.
But if the intent of the board was to allow these smaller subdivisions to come in under an administrative approval, and the ordinance is in place for how we review subdivisions. It's just, you got to have the special use permit for generally more than 20 lot subdivisions need those. Because of where our schools are, we've been in a position for several years where any major subdivision needs it, which you may remember, there was a 2-lot subdivision adjacent to the library in Moyock. But that was part of the parent parcel of Glenmore Ridge, which created 50 lots. See? So,
How do we prevent, someone or a developer from circumventing the infrastructure review by splitting a larger project into smaller pieces and having that piecemealing?
well, and I think that I don't think that's advantageous really, because if you truly want to subdivide a large piece of property with a subdivision, then you're going to generally globally look at how is this going to be built out fully. And especially if we have like a 10-year reset of preliminary plat date, you're not going to probably do a phase and wait 10 years and do a phase and wait 10 years. You're just going to do a type 2 preliminary plat. So really the intent is for the smaller subdivisions where they're only creating 20 lots, but it could be more than 20 from the parent parcel, but the subdivision kind of stands alone, if that makes sense. Right? So like even the subdivisions by the Moyock Library ended up being 3 individual subdivisions that all kind of function together.
So the aggregation rule is kind of what you're talking about. It would be option 2, would be, so when when it's created, can they subdivide let's say you have 40 acres, subdivide, or, 20 lots, and then they sell that other part. Does that become available before the 10 years? Is it just on the land, not on the owner?
In that instance, it would not. It would be, because we're talking about parent parcel.
Okay.
Which is the other big conversation which is what this option 3 would be, was just if you're coming in to create 20 or fewer lots, regardless of the parent parcel date, then you could be considered a type 1 preliminary plat.
Okay.
And that option may need some massaging of the ordinance to make that clear. But really it was the reason we're looking at this is just historically how it's been done. And we just like to be able to see the words on the page that show, and not have to really talk about intent as much as what it actually says,
Right.
right? So we've inferred that the intent is, and that has been the practice, to my understanding for years, is that it's from the parent parcel date of 89. So,
Is there a way to quantify or to identify those particular parcels?
what do you mean?
So these parcels between 1965 and 1989.
Yeah, so that's that's the next text amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's existing
Okay.
lot of record.
Okay.
And the answer to that
Jumped ahead.
question, the answer to that question is yes and no. The time it takes to research a parcel, it depending on what the parcel is, it's a lot of staff time. So, but to this point, it's basically it's should the lots count from the parent parcel as it existed at 89, or should it be from the parent parcel and 10 years, or should it be just major subdivisions less than 20, or maybe there's an option 4, which is major subdivisions less than 20 lots, and on that parcel they haven't, they're not trying to circumvent a phasing. But again, the intent generally isn't to phase in, right? For example, Lotus Ridge subdivision off of Puddin Ridge is a 177 lot subdivision. The stormwater's all connected, the infrastructure's all connected. It probably would, now they're gonna build it in phases, but it wouldn't make sense to come in and get preliminary plat approval in phases, if that makes sense. Because the preliminary plat is the general layout. It's not the detailed construction drawings. It's the general layout of the subdivision.
I have one, in a, let's say 20 lot subdivision, what, I know you use the Tisler study to generate that data. What kind of school age children data are we looking at? What do we, okay,
I'll give you some examples of the Tischler rate, generation rates, and a 10,
Okay.
15, and 20 lot subdivision, and the students generated for each.
so we could potentially get 8, I guess, students generated out of 20 lots, potentially, because there's gonna be
Potentially.
more than one child per house.
That's the generation rate is 8.
8, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the other factor is that adequate public school facilities really aren't supposed to be used as a tool to slow growth. They're supposed to be used to make sure you have facilities in place, right? So for phasing in, things like that. Not for like to stop subdivisions, period, because of adequate public school facilities.
It's important for planning.
Sure, and we track the number of students, and obviously the schools give us their capacity that we use when we put that in staff reports for the board to consider,
Okay.
so.
So basically, they're going to go through the same approval of, making sure that, traffic will be, something that's considered. It will be something that, it won't be where they have to go out and get a traffic survey.
Correct, which isn't required currently, but
Right.
could be some evidence that they might bring if they felt like traffic was gonna be an issue for a special use permit before the board, right? So it's basically, we have ordinance standards for this is how subdivisions must be designed in order to be approved, right? And we've had those. And if the high school dropped down to less than 85% capacity, we would be reviewing type 1s like that already. It's just, this is to just review them always like that. And for your type 2 preliminary plats, those are the ones that require a community meeting and special use permit. That's where they have to meet the ordinance and they have to show they meet the other 4 findings, right? Not injuring the value of adjoining or abutting lands, being in harmony in the areas which it's located, being consistent with the land use plan, and not exceeding the county's ability to provide adequate public school facilities.
I got one more. If, let's say this does go through and it's approved and changed, who would have I'm going to assume it would be staff would have the final approval on the type 1. If it's not a special use permit, it obviously probably would not go to the commissioners.
That's correct. It will not go to the commissioners. It will not be a special use permit. It will be a technical review committee decision,
Okay.
which is what, like I said, which is what it is now,
It's
except
now,
for the
yeah.
adequate public
They do it
school
now.
facility trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which right now, it's the high school and the elementary, but once the elementary is built in Moyoc,
Right.
right?
Right.
So,
Okay. And currently on the TRC, does the Board of Education have a seat on the TRC? Are they notified?
they're notified. Oh, yeah.
Okay,
They get all
so
the,
they know it's coming.
yeah.
Because, okay, I just want to make sure that they don't experience, oh, hey, by the way, you got 10 more students coming.
Yeah,
You know, that
no,
kind of a
they're
thing.
certainly, they're involved. They get the monthly emails for new submittals, and some of our projects are on a rolling submittal now.
Yeah,
Where we're
I've
not
seen
having
some
them
of
on a
that.
submittal schedule, which those are the TRC reviewed things. This will likely go the same way and be rolling, so you can submit at any time as long as you've got a approved application. But even those are submitted or sent out to the boards.
Okay.
Including the school board.
As long as they're aware, that's the biggest question I had.
Because they're tracking all that too.
Right, I'm sure that they are.
Any other questions for staff?
I'll, if I could, Mr. Chairman, these are the actual definitions that are proposed for option 1, which is item 4. Just adding that it's from the parent parcel, including minor lots within 5 years. This was at option 1, and the same for the type 2. And then for the option 2, item 5, it would be also including a 10 years of subdivision application date for major subdivision lots. So minors or majors may count towards the total.
Makes a lot more sense when you're explaining it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. We've talked a lot about this and trying to figure out options. And these aren't all the options, right? I mean, there's tons of options. And the board might send us on a path to look at a different option, and we'll do that. So, but it just seemed like this is a good time to let's just make sure we're on the same page of this is how we're deciding what's type 1 or type 2 without controversy. Like it's clear, right? So.
Any other questions? Any discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, let me just review the land
Land use.
use plan, which was in your packet, but we probably should talk about it. There's some land use goals you may want to consider, which land use goal 1 you see a lot. Land use goal 2 is about considering design and location of certain land uses. And then infrastructure and county services goal 1 is to ensure sufficient provision of services to support associated growth and development and continue to enforce the adequate public facilities ordinance. Y'all are very well versed in the text amendment review standards here. And the request is in conformance with the UDO and the land use plan, and including land use goals 1, 2, and infrastructure and county services goal 1. And I'm done.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, well, now we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve PB 2515 Currituck County text amendment with the addition of staff option 2, item 5, because the request is in conformance with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine Currituck 2040 Vision Plan and the UDO Land Use Goals 1 and 2, and Infrastructure and County Services Goal 1.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a
Yes,
second.
Scribbled at it.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. All right, item number 2, PB 25-16, Currituck County, request to amend the Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 8, Nonconformities, and Chapter 9, Definitions and Measurement, to change the existing lot of record definition. And we'll hear from staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a text amendment initiated by the Board of Commissioners after some discussion and several work sessions, one in February of this year and a follow-up in June. Let's see here. So the changes to the definition of existing lot of record, which basically means legal lot. And so we staff in planning and inspections continuously research properties where we have applications pending to determine, is this a legal lot of record? Meaning, was it established according to the county's regulations when it was created? And as you can imagine, sometimes lots are created by deed. They're not created through a plat that we've reviewed. And sometimes those lots did not meet our standards at the time they were created. And the reason, as I said, the reason for the definition was to ensure that owners have complied with the county's subdivision regulations, which were first adopted on August 2nd, 1965, which is the date you see in the definition currently. And so the board did direct staff in their, I got ahead of myself here, in their work sessions to change that date of lot creation from August 2nd, 1965, which is the date of the first subdivision ordinance, to April 2nd, 1989, which was the date of adoption of the county's first unified development ordinance that had subdivision and zoning together, which is also our parent parcel date that we use to count splits for determining major and minor subdivisions. The board also wanted to recognize lots with an existing principal structure and recognize lots where a principal structure was demolished with a permit. And there had been some instances where a home was demolished and it was not a legal lot of record and they couldn't get a permit to rebuild on that lot. So, and additionally, staff has proposed an edit to the definition to provide clarifying language that a lot must be a lot of record prior to issuance of a zoning permit for principal use. So you can see here I'm not going to read the whole definition, but the current definition basically says to be a legal lot, you have to be part of an approved subdivision, which generally there's a plat recorded that was signed by the county, and we can find those on the Register of Deeds pages to make that determination. Or the lot was created prior to August 2nd, 1965, the date of the first subdivision regulations in the county. Or it's a lot where an existing structure is located, provided a valid building permit was obtained for construction. I will say a lot of times hunting down that building permit is difficult. Some programs that we used to use that had historical data we don't have access to anymore, and a lot of times homeowners don't have that data either. 4 is a lot which met all subdivision and zoning regulations at the time it was created. That's one way that folks have been able to take lots that were not legal and make them legal. They were large enough, they had access, they met dimensional standards of the ordinance at the time they were created. So sometimes that was done by a meets and bounds description, so that's allowed, and sometimes it wasn't, and we just say record a plat that says that it met the then in effect regulations, and that can make it legal. And then 5, that's a lot that meets current subdivision, so that other option of you can do minor subdivision, we just relax some of the minor subdivision standards, or just meet current subdivision regulations, period. So the proposed definition, again, keeping part of an approved subdivision, changing the date to April 2nd, 1989, so lots created prior to that would be legal. And then a lot with an existing principal structure or a lot where a principal structure was demolished with a permit. That was the direction of the Board of Commissioners, was principal structure, which I think is probably makes sense. Structure in our ordinance is defined very broadly, anything constructed, basically. So the intent would be that you could still do some of the accessory uses that are allowed prior to establishment of a principal structure, and like bulkheads for shoreline stabilization. That probably doesn't in and itself make something a lot of record, but you should be able to protect the shoreline that you have. So that's why the principal structure language is added. And then you'll see in the text amendment language that it has the date of text amendment adoption, because we didn't want to leave a loophole, which is, I have a house on this lot, I can make it any shape I want, right? Because it says if you have a principal structure, it's a legal lot. Well, it needs to exist at some point prior to adoption. It's not a free pass to take area from your lot that has a house to create another lot because you don't have enough property to do that, if that makes sense.
If that makes sense.
So, then a lot which met the subdivision and zoning regulations at the time. There could be some lots, if this is approved from 89 to now, that were created outside of the actual process, but may have met subdivision regulations at the time. We can look into that, and that's still gonna be an option for people. And then, of course, we still have the option of meeting the current regulations. So here's the current definition with the strike-through and underlined language. And I'll just take note of the last sentence there, which was the staff addition, that just clarifying a lot of records required prior to issuance of a zoning permit for a principal use. And then this is the non-conforming lots of record section, which was amended in the agenda packet resent out earlier today to just capture that change, that the date should be consistent in both sections. Let's see, land use goal 1 may apply here. The text amendment review standards also apply. And the amendment is in conformance with the goals of Imagine Currituck 2040 Vision Plan, and it's not in conflict with the ordinance, and may be consistent with land use goal 1. And I'd be happy to answer any questions the board has at this time.
Could you back up a couple of slides, please?
Sure.
There,
This
the
one?
non-conforming lot area. I do a lot of research myself in my other job. I've ran across a non-buildable lot of record. Is that considered a non-conforming lot?
Non-buildable lot of record.
Non-buildable lot of record?
So non-buildable to me would indicate that there's some sort of environmental factor,
Okay,
or like sometimes some of the oceanfront lots in the Alfred area don't have all the components needed in order to be issued a coastal area management permit. That might be termed non-buildable. We don't generally say that.
okay,
We kind of more say, it's a legal lot, it was created legally.
right.
Here's all the rules that you have to meet, right? So it looks like you might have a challenge meeting those rules, that kind of thing. So that's what we would say.
Okay. That was my only question.
That example leads me into a question somewhat unrelated, because that is a lot of challenges there. Can some of those challenges actually be overcome by co-joining oceanfront lots in that area?
Well, I mean, that's, a lot of cases there's a road in between.
I'm sorry.
A lot of cases there's a road in between
Yeah.
where the area that you would actually need.
Oh, no, I'm talking about
So-
co-joining.
Yeah, I mean,
laterally.
that's been done, but I don't know if it depends on all the circumstances of the particular property,
Yeah,
whether
that's
that would
pretty-
be enough.
Pretty complicated in some
Yeah.
of those areas.
Yeah,
Okay.
because normally the issue is it spans several lot widths, not just one lot has a problem, right?
Right,
So.
right. And it's interesting, you don't say non-buildable, but that's the words that are used out there.
Yeah,
Okay.
we like to choose our words carefully.
All right.
All right. So everything between 65 and 89, I'm sure there's some of that out there. What kind of, I don't call it an issue, but how is this going to apply to those lots that are still held
So.
during that time frame?
So basically what it's doing is saying if it's a lot, like if it really was a lot, then it would be legal if it was created prior to April 2nd, 1989. So whereas now when we're researching, we love it if we can find a deed older than 65 because it means it's legal, right?
Yeah.
It's great for everybody. We don't have to break bad news. But that date will change to 89. So those lots, if they're truly lots, will be considered a lot of record and be able to be built on.
So make it simpler on staff, not to have to go past 89, I guess, too.
Is correct, and the owner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, the other side of that is the rules are in effect from August 2nd, 1965 to April 2nd, 1989. So it's almost like you're giving a little amnesty there.
A little what?
Because it doesn't mean that you actually met the rules when it was created. It just means we're going to recognize it as a lot.
Right.
Okay.
And I think one of the things, too, the board wanted to do with the principal structure piece was, just recognizing if you've got a house there, you should be able to rebuild it.
Sure.
And if you can meet required setbacks, et cetera, with something bigger, you should be able to do that. Like you're not really changing much by doing that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you should be able to. I mean, I see it a lot. Old houses that are basically falling down on a property,
Yeah.
and they're built in the 40s, and someone wants to take it down and put up a new house. I think you should. You should be able to.
Yeah, I mean, the challenging thing for us was we review subdivisions,
Right.
right? So if you change that lot between 65 and 89, then that's why it wouldn't be a legal lot. This will fix that for some people.
Well, good.
What's the downside to this? Is there any? Is there anything I'm missing here as a downside to this change? From a lot owner's perspective.
From a lot owner's perspective, it might be individual. Maybe somebody thought that the property beside them was not going to be able to be built on because it wasn't a legal lot of record, and it might be. I mean, is that a downside? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Certainly
know.
not for the person that owns
Good
the
example,
property,
though.
but
That's a
that
good
could be a downside.
Okay.
It's unclear how many of these lots are actually out there.
Yeah.
We did do some research, but it's to really get good numbers. It would probably take a long time because I have just one particular property I was researching. I look like I was in A Beautiful Mind, that movie where it was just in deed after deed, and we have these trees and just couldn't figure it out, and it just takes a long time to do it.
So it definitely brings on more potential for the more building.
It does,
obviously.
yep. And I'm sure there are folks that are maybe wanting to build a house a little bit bigger, maybe even do some upgrades and things where they're having a challenge getting a permit because of the lot of record issue.
So are you saying like some of the lots ocean front, where the deed does date back to 65, between the 65 and 89, they might have a buildable lot there? No.
It doesn't change anything with respect to what the CAMA regs are, what setback.
Okay.
It doesn't change any of that. And those lots were generally all created through a subdivision, a
Right.
major subdivision.
Right.
back in like the 70s, maybe even as early as
Actually, it
late
was- yeah,
60s.
yeah,
So,
late 60s,
like,
right.
if you're part of Swan Beach, Seagull Beach, Corova Beach, those were all done through subdivisions. So this really doesn't, it doesn't
apply.
affect that. And it,
Okay.
right. So it's just basically, it's not saying you can pull a permit on a lot that doesn't meet the standards for CAMA, because we're already saying it's a legal lot, like it was created legally through the subdivision process.
Right.
But you can't currently meet all the constraints to build on the property.
Right, which
For
stand
instance, you may have
independent.
a legal lot where maybe you can't figure out how to put a well and a septic and figure all that out. You know, there's small lots that people are just now starting to figure out how to do those things because of technology. That can change. But yeah, this is really just about, was the lot created legally?
Yeah,
Not necessarily can you build on it.
yeah. I'm just waiting for that to all blow up because there's all those oceanfront lots there that there's a lot of hoops to get through to do anything. And I don't think it can, we talked about this before, I don't think it can be done. So those CAMA regulations and all that stand independent of what we're talking today.
Oh yeah, yeah, those don't change at all.
Okay.
What about 10-acre exempt subdivisions?
They're exempt by state statute.
So that's because, okay. So
Yeah, yeah.
That parcel, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I do, but we're getting probably off the topic.
All right, any discussion? And then we can entertain a motion.
I move to approve PB 25-16 Currituck County text amendment because the request is in conformance with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine Currituck 2040 Vision Plan and the UDO, including Land Use Goal 1.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. All right, are there any announcements for this evening?
I don't have any announcements tonight.
If there are no announcements, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that one.
Motion and a second. And all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.